I mean, it's literally the twist from Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but, like, played completely straight. Like, it's just like an all-powerful being kills a woman to motivate a man. Like, and not even the right man, not even the kid. It's to motivate this rando at all these.
I didn't know that fridging started with God.
Welcome to Bible Boys, a podcast where two ex-evangelical siblings and an ex-Catholic non-sibling watch Christian media and either praise or condemn it. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Michael.
This week, we dive into the world of Apocrypha as we discuss Christian urban legends. Before we buy some nice shoes to meet Jesus, please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and comment on our video, and follow us on Twitter at The Bible Boys.
So before we get started, Aaron, I do have a little quibble with what we're doing. We are participating in what I like to call Christmas pasta.
Oh, like a creepypasta?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like lasagna.
You know, lasagna, everyone's favorite holiday pasta.
Yeah, because, you know, you see Jesus in the lasagna and then you start performing miracles.
Listen, I'm trying to be more open and understanding of Catholics. I want to understand what an Italian Christmas is like.
I would have no way of knowing. The Vatican City does not recognize the authority of secular Rome. However, we do recognize the authority of some great, I want to call them like, I don't know if they're B-sides. I don't know if they're like DLC, but they're little extras that aren't like technically part of Christianity really, but like if you are somebody who grew up in the Christian, you know, ephemera in the United States, you know about these things we're going to talk about. And since it's, you know, the holidays, we're just going to have a bit of a weirder episode. We're going to talk about some strange Christian, we're calling them urban legends. Basically, it's like, you know, chick tracks, Facebook stories, you know, things that Christians are generally aware of that are outside of formal Christianity.
Yeah, not a lot of this is going to have biblical reasoning for the belief.
Almost none of it, I assume.
I remember in my Bible that Jesus was really picky about what shoes people were wearing in heaven.
Who's going first, boys?
I think I'm going to go first because mine's pretty straightforward, and I think that if you are a Christian person, you'll know about footprints. And then actually, Josh, I want you to, because of sometimes when we let you do a secret reveal on the podcast and we have to destroy the whole episode, I actually want you to tell us what you were doing, and then we can decide whether or not you or Michael are going after me.
I thought I told you guys what I was doing.
I forgot.
Oh, I'm doing Christmas.
Like
I'm walking through, like, why the fuck we celebrating on December 25th, man?
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of myths around it. There's a lot of stuff we don't understand, some misconceptions. Some of you atheists out there might actually have a couple facts incorrect. Jesus is actually real.
I should probably go second, seeing as I'm the connective tissue between feet and Christmas.
Yeah, I feel like it makes sense.
Good.
Like we're going through the seasons, so we have to start in summer with footprints. And then we're moving into fall, Black Friday shopping, and then we end it in the season.
The reason for the season. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, feet.
Yeah, fuck you, spring.
Oh, God. All right. I'll start first. So, you all are aware of the Footprints in the Sand poem. We referenced it constantly on this podcast, but I don't know if our listeners will be aware of it. So I'm going to read the full text of this poem that I got from ryanhart.org.
ryanhart.org?
Listen, I'm stating that because we're going to discuss its disputed authorship here in a bit. So, here's the poem, Footprints in the Sand. One night I dreamed a dream. I was walking along the beach with my Lord. Across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. For each scene, I noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and one to my Lord. When the last scene of my life shot before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand. There was only one set of footprints. I realized that this was at the lowest and saddest times of my life. This always bothered me, and I questioned the Lord about my dilemma. Lord, you told me when I decided to follow you, you would walk and talk with me all the way. But I'm aware that during the most troublesome times of my life, there's only one set of footprints. I just don't understand why, when I need you the most, you leave me. He whispered, my precious child, I love you and will never leave you, never, ever, during your trials and testings. When you saw only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. Yeah, it's a fine poem, but I think that's kind of like a very, very common poem. I the first time I saw it was in like my grandmother's house. She had it kind of like on like a little poster thing that she hung up on the wall.
I believe it's a requirement for all people raised Christian to see this hanging up at a grandparent's house.
Yeah, I assume you all have some similar exposure to it.
Absolutely. Like stitching in pillows,
Yes.
like
Gifts.
you name it.
Oh my god, gifts. This just made me think of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know what? I got to give some credit. I do kind of want a man to carry me down the beach, so fair.
There's so many things I want to talk about with this like story. The biggest is every time I heard it, I always wondered what the dude and Jesus were chatting about. Because I know Christians, and like the ones that would be incredibly pumped to walk with Jesus on the beach would be, there's such a wide variety of conversation topics that they could possibly be having.
It seems like they're talking about all the shitty times that the person had, which is,
Remember when I stubbed my toe, Jesus?
Well, yeah, what the hell?
Yeah. You know I was crucified, right?
It's kind of like apples and oranges, but I'm gonna read. Basically, I'm gonna take a lot of citations from this Poetry Foundation article by Rachel Aviv, who breaks down the disputed authorship of this poem, because as far as I've known, this poem has always been attributed to Anonymous, which, you know, isn't necessarily the case. And I'll warn you that this comes with a little mini twist at the end, because Aviv makes a very funny claim about the authorship of the poem. So Rachel Aviv breaks down, there's like 4 people that in their article they talk about potentially have written the poem. So I'm going to talk about each of these people's claims and like the weird stuff they did to cement that they are the true author of Footprints. So first is Burl Webb. This guy claims he wrote this poem in 1958 after getting dumped by his girlfriend, and he was like really depressed about it. So he wrote this sad poem. But then, like, you know, he went on with his life. He never bothered to like copyright it or whatever. And then like 40 years later, his son told him like, this is a super famous poem and everybody's like selling it and reading it. And Mr. Webb got really upset about that. So now anytime that somebody disputes that he is the main author of Footprints, he will take this polygraph test results that he paid $400 to obtain, and he will mail them to you. So,
dude, will you just mail one? Like, can you sign it and mail it to us? That's a big get.
I think we have to like try to sue him or something, but like it's really funny. That's what he does.
Did he consider releasing like a 10-page version of it with just in parentheses like Taylor's version?
Yeah, the Burl Webb cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next is Mary Stevenson, who claims she wrote it in 1936 after her mom...
dumping some guy.
I wish! No, actually, it's after both her mom and brother died.
Oh!
So, kind of sad.
Yikes. Yeah, that's a rough one.
So, like, her inspiration was she saw some cat's footprints in the snow, and she just wrote the poem inspired by that. And she just never signed her name, and she would just like, you know, give out copies and just, anonymously. She, in her book, about the disputed authorship of this poem, which is titled Footprints in the Sand, The Life Story of Mary Stevenson, author of the immortal poem. Yeah, she says that she used to give handwritten copies of the poem to friends in times of crisis, which like I don't know, like when my friends are in trouble, we try to mail them something nice, or like buy them a gift card so they can purchase a lasagna or something. I don't know that I would appreciate a handwritten original poem if I was feeling down.
Yeah, no thank you.
It just has big energy. I don't know if you get this, Aaron, but me and Michael sure do. Of those relatives that are like, this Christmas card, this is going to be the one that gets them back. This is the one. Jesus' message will find fertile soil with this one here.
Extremely that. The next author is arguably the one who is like most defensive of the copyright. So
more so than the dude who will mail you a polygraph.
Yeah, because he never got it copyright. This person, Margaret Fishback Powers, did copyright this poem. So she is a Baptist Christian evangelist, and she actually sold the poem to HarperCollins Canada in 1992 or 1993. She also writes a book about how this is 100% her poem. And the book's title is Footprints, the True Story Behind the Poem That Inspired Millions. And this book apparently talks about like how Margaret Fishback Powers' life was like kind of fucked up. Like, she talks about the time she got hit by lightning, and the time she got spinal meningitis, and then the time that she got hit by a truck, and the time that she nearly died of anaphylaxis due to a bee sting. And then the time that her daughter was crushed by a motorcycle, fell off a waterfall, which caused her husband to have a heart attack.
Is this woman Job?
It seems like this might be Job 2, the sequel to Job.
But instead of like God coming in at the end and like getting rid of all of the maladies, she gets a mid-poem.
Yeah, like it's so funny. But like apparently her husband, who had this heart attack, went to the hospital, and the nurse who was seeing to him like pulled out a copy of this poem, and she's like, maybe this will help you feel better. And she says, it's a shame nobody knows the author. And her husband was like, oh, it's my wife, which is just a wild thing to say to your nurse.
He was actually doing a really weird Borat impression.
The worst Borat impression.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the most elaborate retcon that I've ever heard. Like, this guy is like very clearly like on medication in the hospital, and he's like, yeah, my wife wrote that.
Is that the like last author that like claims it? Like, are these the big three?
I think that's the big three. There's one more person, Carolyn, Joyce, Carty, who is apparently, according to Aviv, the most hostile of the contenders, who will frequently issue, quote, error-ridden cease and desist letters to those who post the poem online. She cites her emails world-renowned poet. And the author of this article, Rachel Aviv, says that this person struggles with punctuation and spelling, which is just like such a burn.
She is camp. I think she's the real writer.
Yeah, I mean, the poem's not that good. It could be hers.
I feel like it has to be her.
Hear me out, boys. Hear me out.
A world-renowned litigious poet, that is like iconic.
Incredible.
We got the makings of a Christian Mamma Mia too.
Oh my god, that's such a good idea. Holy shit.
Hear me out,
I'm quitting my job. I'm selling everything I own. I'm funding this right now.
Okay, but here's the thing. Instead of the Mamma Mia like reveal, what we do is we threaten to cut the poem in half, and whichever one is like, no, it's theirs. That's actually the mother of this poem.
That's how it ends, yeah.
Incredible.
Mamma Mia.
So
that's
at the very end, at the very end of Rachel Aviv's article, she brings up the phenomenon of cryptomnesia, and says that, sometimes when artists open themselves up to the inspiration of the Lord, it's not surprising that they sometimes produce sentences that sound as if they've been uttered before. And she goes on to cite Andrew Keene's book, The Cult of the Amateur, and which states that the internet has induced a state of communal amnesia We've lost our memory for things learned, read, and experienced or heard. And then says, perhaps the Footprints writers are living a version of this particular situation. There's not only an abundance of amateur authors, but they've all written the exact same thing. Rachel, what are you fucking talking about?
Okay, so this is like that whole theory that, like, you know, if you let a chimp type randomly, it'll just type a Shakespeare poem.
Yes.
Like, okay, fine, sure, theoretically. But that also is why we have copyright laws.
I do love the idea of, like, if you put chimps in a room, eventually they get Shakespeare. However, before they get 5 to 6 Christian poems, and then they get to Shakespeare.
They will write the entire book of Psalms before they get to Shakespeare, is the thing.
It's really weird. Like, are they, like, have they unionized? Do they know what they're doing? We're not sure yet, but we're getting to Shakespeare.
Incredible. Anyway, that's Footprints.
Yeah, Footprints is wild. I don't think it's all that great of a poem.
It's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
But people act like it was divinely ordained, and yeah, it sounds like someone who went through like a really shitty time and their faith preserved them, and good for them. I find it almost more interesting, this Mamma Mia story about who actually wrote it.
It truly is the God's Not Dead one of poems. Like, so many people are like, it changed me, and I watched it and went, this? Except Aaron. He said it changed me, and I'm like, I can see how.
Do you ever remember, like, back in the 90s where you would just get a phone call and somebody would recite the entirety of the Footprints poem to you, and then said that you had to pass it on to all your friends as well in your Rolodex?
Let me just recall, I was one at the time. I got one dank year inside the 90s. I did get that phone call, yes.
Excellent. Good.
Well, I'm glad that you bring up pain calls and the 90s, because that's where my story begins.
This is actually Michael's origin story.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in 1995, so, and fun fact, I was part of an elaborate chain letter, so, surprise, that's how I came into the ether. That's my Greek god origin story. So, let's go ahead and buckle up and time travel, shall we? Bill Clinton is president. There's an economic surplus. Al Gore invented the internet. The world is simple. You don't have Twitter. You don't know that your neighbors are anti-vaxxers. And you certainly don't know that your grandma thinks that what she does about immigrants.
This is nice.
Yeah, this is really nice.
It's interesting. I'm just potential.
And, you know, from time to time, you open up your email and you get this long, weird story that goes in different directions, and it has instructions that you should send this to your closest friends. And that, gentlemen, is the origin of the Christmas shoes story.
That's where it comes from?
Yeah. So we actually have no idea who wrote this.
Which probably one of the 4 we talked about before.
Perhaps. The thing is that we know exactly who wrote this song, but the story that it's based on is a big old question mark.
You're telling me that this has the same, like, origin story as those messages you'd get in high school from all of your friends every holiday, where it was like, this Thanksgiving, make sure all your turkey sluts get stuffed.
Yes, it's exactly like that. Oh my god.
It is like that. And so let's explain what the Christmas shoes is, because I've been talking so giddily about it, because in my opinion, this is the worst Christmas song that has ever existed.
Oh.
So our narrator in this song, and we'll get into the history of the song, but that's really the best avenue for the story, because my understanding is more or less the story was cut and paste into a song, and the band who made it was just struggling to put music to it for years. So this is pretty much the Christmas pasta I was talking about. So it's a guy who's Christmas shopping, and he's a real Grinch. He's unhappy. He doesn't want to be there. He's like buying a couple of things, and he's like bah humbugging in the line. And he sees this dirty, filthy boy that looks like he's straight out of a Dickens novel.
Please, sir.
I'm course.
Yeah,
he
like
is.
like he looks like Pigpen, but like has never eaten and lives in an orphanage.
Sir, I
But-
just got off my shift of cleaning the chimney.
Exactly. But here's the thing. This kid isn't an orphan. He has a pair of shoes.
He's a pre-orphan.
He's a pre-orphan. We catch him before he's orphaned.
Just add water.
So he's in line with this, the only thing I can assume is demonic cashier, who this child is saying, hey, so my dad is telling me that my mom's going to die soon. She's going to meet Jesus like probably tonight. So I need to buy these shoes for her because she's literally terminally ill. And I need her to look beautiful to meet Jesus because if not, she's not getting into heaven? Question mark.
God's a bit of a dick in this story.
It seems like it insinuates that she's not getting into heaven unless she's wearing something
We'll
nice.
break down the theology of this song in a bit. Please keep going.
And the cashier hears this impassioned plea from this tiny, dirty child and goes, hey, you're paying in pennies and you're kind of short here. And this Grinch of a man in line gets struck like Paul on the road to Damascus and is like, I have to help this child buy shoes for his dying mother so she can get into heaven. And he puts down money and helps this kid buy shoes.
Doesn't the kid do like an impassioned plea to him?
Yeah, he literally asks him, hey, will you help me buy these shoes for my mom who's dying?
Do you have the lyrics pulled up?
Yes, I do.
Please read them.
Yeah,
So-
hit us with that.
Okay, I am going... So, first of all, I want to talk about how much this dude is an asshole. He counted pennies for what seemed like years.
Okay, cool, dude.
Poor kid. Then the cashier said, son, there's not enough here. He searched his pockets frantically. Then he turned and looked at me. He said, Mama made Christmas good at our house, though most years she just did without. Tell me, sir, what am I going to do? Somehow I've got to buy her these Christmas shoes. So I laid the money down. I just had to help him out. And I'll never forget the look on his face when he said, Mama's gonna look so great. Sir, I want to buy these shoes for my mama, please. It's Christmas Eve, and these shoes are just her size. Could you hurry, sir? Daddy says there's not much time. You see, she's been sick for quite a while, and I know these shoes would make her smile. And I want her to look beautiful if Mama meets Jesus tonight.
Oh my god.
Uh-huh. And I'm not going to read the whole song,
Yeah.
but I am going to mention the bridge here because the narrator of this story is actually a sociopath and like only makes it about himself. So the narrator says, I knew I'd caught a glimpse of heaven's love as he thanked me and ran out. I knew that God had sent me that little boy to remind me just what Christmas is all about.
I'm so glad God killed that woman so I could get the Christmas spirit.
Because we all know that the pinnacle of Christianity is that God is smiting people down with terminal illnesses to teach grumpy men about the meaning of Christmas, which is commercialism?
I'm not ready to move past this. Imagine God looking down, watching this mom give up her entire life to make sure that this kid has a great Christmas, a great upbringing, even though he has to clean the chimneys, even though he is very sickly and tiny. And then God goes, but then Jack over here, he's upset that he has to wait in line for Christmas gifts. Let me just kill this lady so he gets an understanding that Christmas isn't actually nice.
I mean, it's literally the twist from Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but like played completely straight. Like, it's just like an all-powerful being kills a woman to motivate a man. Like, and not even the right man, not even the kid. It's to motivate this rando at all these.
I didn't know that fridging started with God.
I also, okay, like, I don't want to get too, like, blue here. The cashier should have, like, let the kid just take it. It's gonna be returned soon anyway.
Jeez.
God.
Just leave the tag on.
just have Jesus take it back to the store.
Okay, so like how expensive could these shoes be? Like they're not red bottoms. He's not like, you know, in a Louboutin store getting like the $10,000 shoes. Like
What if he was?
Probably a Payless. Like,
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think you could probably just like call it even. Like, if I am making minimum wage at a Payless, I'm like, you know what, kid?
It's
Keep
fine.
your fucking pennies. Just take the shoes. I didn't see a thing.
It's good.
There's a camera there and there.
Yeah, just stuff them down your pants. Okay, so clearly in the cosmology of this universe, right, we live in a world in which God does care about what you are wearing when you go to heaven.
Yes.
And we understand that this kid is poor, so he's probably shopping at a store that's not like incredibly upscale, like Michael said. What brand of shoes do you think is the cutoff, where it's like, I don't know if you're gonna make the cut past the pearly gates, chief?
I think you come in with like dad New Balances, you're going straight to purgatory.
Crap.
Yeah, I feel like God would really like you to be in Nikes.
Yeah. God, just do it.
Just splurge a little bit on your mom's footwear.
But okay, we're talking about this as if like in the most logical sense. Let me spin this a little bit. What if this is in a fancy store, and this kid's dad was like, "Hey, you make a little money for Christmas, kid?" And like he brought
the most
pennies.
elaborate scam.
Yeah, this kid brought like 45 cents to buy these $800 shoes. Turns around, this guy has already made the agreement that he is going to buy these shoes. Looks at the register, and the lady goes, "All right, you're going to pay the other $844.15." And the guy's like, "Well, if I don't now, I said if I don't do it, because
If I want to get into heaven, I better."
Well, he's responsible for that mom's fucking soul at that point. Because if you
Yeah.
don't buy him, she goes to hell.
Oh my.
Yeah,
It's a good racket. It's a good
this
racket.
is like I highly recommend everyone who listens to this podcast listen to this song at
I
least
don't.
once if you haven't. No, because it is like it's truly the worst Christmas song, but it is wild the level of like. First of all, it's sung like spoken word.
It's like an old Johnny Cash song.
Yeah, and it's like over some like adult contemporary music, and it's the wildest shit ever. I really think that it's an experience that you need to have once in life. I'm not saying it's a good experience. In fact, I think it's a bad one, but I do think you need to have it.
Michael, are you going to reveal the fact about you and our father, or is that going to be on me?
What fact?
That you guys played this in our church play.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
What?
Yeah, our dad was the grumpy man.
Yeah.
And Michael was the little boy.
You did a play of this song?
Of course we did.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
I totally like you just recovered that memory for me. Yeah, I played the little kid. One year I played Jesus, one year I played this little kid.
That same year they gave the like younger kids like a little thing that we were supposed to read, and it was about like getting saved. And I went up to our Sunday school teacher and went, "Hey, can I make this good?"
I got some edits for you, teach.
And I literally passed out edits. And we did my version.
I love
And
that.
it was so much funnier. Jesus, like no sense of humor in that church.
Ah, incredible.
So I have a lot of really fun things about this. So basically what ended up happening is a Christian radio host got a hold of this. And he was friends with this band called New Song. And he passed along this story to them and said, "Hey, I think there's a song here." And mind you, this is the 90s, right?
Mhm.
They spent the better part of a decade workshopping this into a song.
Okay.
And this is what they got. So we're actually in the 20th anniversary of this song. It only came out in 2001.
Oh my god, I'm older than this song.
Uh-huh. And
This is-
it was actually a bonus track on their album. They were like filling out their album and they were like, "Oh, I guess we'll do this." And this song was not at all successful on Christian radio.
Huh.
But you know where it was successful? Fucking Billboard. It was #1 on Billboard for 3 weeks.
Fuck.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Okay.
man. America should just kind of let it go, you know?
And then they said, hey, we have some success here. Let's make a Christmas Shoes album.
Excuse me?
Wait, the story ends there.
Which was then nominated for a Grammy
Okay. All right.
for Best Pop Contemporary Gospel Album.
It's insane to me that this story has the same exact history of John Lennon writing Imagine.
Well, I got some more for you.
Oh, did John Lennon write it?
No, a Christian author, Donna Van Leer, wrote a book based on the song,
Okay. All right.
which she then turned into an entire set of books. The Christmas Shoes, The Christmas Blessing, The Christmas Hope, The Christmas Secret, and The Christmas Note.
I'm sorry, were you just reading, Lifetime movies?
Wait, so
Nope,
this is a
these are-
trilogy.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books. This is,
Quintology.
yeah.
I'm gonna put my
and-
head through a window.
Then what happened is, that was on the New York Times bestseller list.
Hey, Aaron, you're a really good writer, and I've seen your work. One note: have you thought of get that Gluck Gluck turkey stuffing this year and turning that into a book?
It's just I work really hard to try to get stuff published, and I haven't had very much success, and then I hear that the fucking Christmas Shoes quadrilogy became a fucking bestseller, and it does make me want to, do violence to myself a little bit.
Well, what's beautiful is, after all of that, a little tiny indie company you might have heard of called CBS
Yeah.
caught wind of this.
Yeah,
And
this got CBS written all over him.
Hey, let's go ahead and make a movie. So this movie was a made-for-TV movie starring none other than Rob Lowe, released in 2002. It got 17 million viewers and was the second highest rated TV movie of that year.
Oh my god.
Uh-huh.
Mike, we gotta be careful because the level of grumpiness that Aaron and I are feeling, God may kill a couple women just to make us feel better.
Yeah, we gotta watch out really
Yeah,
carefully.
boys, we gotta. Yeah.
Well,
Go-
here's the thing. CBS made this into a trilogy. There are 3 Christmas Shoes movies.
They did the
Hey.
thing. They killed more women to make. This is the opposite.
Listen, if they could turn The Hobbit into 3 movies, why not? I guess.
Yeah, so this is one of those rare moments where a creepypasta chainmail letter sparked a song, which sparked a movie, or sparked a book, which sparked a movie, which sparked an album, which sparked more movies.
Which sparked a phenomena.
Yeah, and now there's a trilogy. The song, ended up being covered by a country band called Three of Heart, and it it keeps staying alive. It's been covered so many times. Though, if you'd like to feel any better, this song almost always is on the worst Christmas songs lists any year that they're made, because it is just objectively awful. And there's no record of this story ever being real. It is likely just someone's imagined internet ramblings. So it's basically like if you went on Am I the Asshole's subreddit and just took one of those stories, wrote a song about it, and then fell into accidental success.
Now, this may have to get cut from the podcast.
Oh,
because it's a really good business idea for you, Aaron. I'm giving you a lot of work here.
Okay.
Hear me out. This would probably be a 6-book series, a prequel about the cashier.
I mean,
I think there's at least a couple million there for you.
the way
Just
we keep fucking cranking out, Corella's mom's backstory or whatever, I mean, it's possible.
Listen, her mom was killed by those dogs.
Yes.
Yeah, and so in this story, this cashier's parents were brutally murdered by a bunch of little orphan kids wearing really nice shoes.
Mm-hmm.
with pennies.
Yeah, with pennies. They all chucked pennies at them.
I think you got something there, Aaron. I might listen. I'm getting a lot of good ideas out today.
Yeah, thanks. I'll put it on my list.
We should have ended with Michael's.
Yes, it's too late now, though. Josh,
yeah,
it's your turn
it is
to
much
bring us
too
home
late.
about Christmas origins.
Okay, so in order to do this, Aaron, I'm going to ask you to, in like a couple sentences, describe the Christian version of the Christmas story. And Michael, I want you to describe like the things that atheists love to point out about the Christmas story. You think you guys can do that?
We'll do our best.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron, hit us with the real gospel. What do Christians believe?
Okay, so Mary had been informed by an angel that she was going to have a child who is going to be the savior of the world. But because they were doing a census that year, she and Joseph had to go to Bethlehem to get counted. But when they got to Bethlehem, there was no room in the stable, or there was no room in all of the hotels and shit. So they had to, they were offered a room in the stable. Mary gives birth in the stable. Jesus, is brought into the world. This all happens on December 25th, and that's why we celebrate it.
And then there are three wise men and three shepherds that
They
show up, and later. 3 wise men have gifts.
Yeah, they bring incense and myrrh and gold.
Yeah, Michael. Why is that wrong? Why do those mean atheists think that's incorrect?
Well, atheists will point out that there's no historical evidence that Jesus was actually a real person, that he would have been born probably not when we think of Christmas as December 25th. They'll also point out things like there are no angels, that Mary was a pregnant teenager that probably used this story to hide the fact that she was a pregnant, unwed teenager.
Is a bit that went too far.
Yeah, that's really the crux of the atheist argument, is either Jesus wasn't real, or if he was, this is a really elaborate lie by a pregnant teenager in a very conservative time. And they like to point out things like, we don't have any records of any of this, as if, not to editorialize here, but as if any of the records from that time are all that well kept.
So I'm going to poke holes at both, which I think is the most interesting outcome for the story. One thing I want to add is that a lot of Christians believe that the wise men showed up the day of. There's more biblical evidence that they showed up much later, after Jesus' birth. But I think if you asked the majority of American Christians, they would say the wise men were there. All of that to say that the concept of celebrating Jesus' birth wasn't really a big thing in early Christianity. The Epiphany on January 6th, not that one, the other January 6th.
Oh no!
Man, we lost another great holiday.
We lost.
First Michael's birthday, and now this.
Yeah, come on.
It's another day where racists took one from us. Oh, man. Yeah, so the Epiphany, and that is the idea of the baptism of Jesus. That was a day that was more commonly celebrated. Christmas was recorded on being celebrated in 336, and then in Rome, and then further into 80. Sorry, that's going to be important. And then later it is shown in 378 in Constantinople and Antioch, and later in 388. So it spread mostly in the 4th century. That's where the general celebrating of the 25th began. Now, there's a lot of conversations about the 25th in general and why it was chosen. A lot of individuals, including myself, will point out that the 25th had to do with a lot of pagan holidays. However, it is important to note that one of the biggest Roman festivals, Sol Invictus, was celebrated on the 25th. The idea is that was their winter solstice. So the idea is this is when the sun will now begin like retaking its glory. The day will now get longer, and like the sun will return to its place. Some scholars actually believe that the celebration during December 25th by the Sol Invictus, like that the Roman cult, was actually to combat Christians celebrating the 25th.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so Rome was still trying to figure out this whole, like, where does Christianity fit in this whole puzzle? There are plenty of other pagan religions and traditions that take place at the end of December having to do with the solstice, but it's not as clear as, like, Christianity just came in and took it for no reason. Part of the belief with that is that there is a commonly held belief in Judaism at the time that a person of note will die on the same day they were born, or 6 months. They'll die the same day they were born, so they die whole. Like, there's no extra days. They lived a whole year. So they take that. They say, well, Jesus died March 25th. So that is when Jesus entered the womb. Hated that sentence. And that would mean the 25th would be the day of his birth. And that is a very interesting way to get to that that amount and that number, especially now with the solstice not, like having that importance and having been forgot. It is just kind of, most people just believe, 25th, that's when Jesus was born, and don't put too much thought into it. But it seems that instead of the idea that Christians came and absorbed a holiday, that these are older traditions that existed in Judaism that have been erased by Christianity's dominance, which I just find very interesting in general. And the 25th was, like I said, not really celebrated for a while. As it began to, like, take hold, it started to take some of the traditions from those pagan holidays. And this was the equivalent of St. Patrick's Day in Boston. This is when boys got rowdy. And it was a day of just pure drunkenness, and you had a fucking great time because Jesus was out of the womb. There was also, I don't know how much I want to get into this, there's also a belief at that time that time was not linear, that time was secular. So the idea that, like, the birth of Jesus was happening now, like, things will repeat. This is the actual birth of Jesus. But that's not funny enough to discuss in this podcast. And then finally, like, there's another myth that kind of surrounds with the wise men. The reason I talked about that, in order to figure out when Jesus was born, people believe that if Jesus was real, he would have been born somewhere between 4 and 6 AD. We're looking at the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. And this is based off of them stating that he was born around the time of King Harold. So King Harold was a Roman client king of Judea. So he was in charge of the area, but Rome was still in charge of him. And he ordered the massacre of all boys less than 2 years old in Bethlehem. And the idea was that he, heard that the Messiah would be born, and he was going to kill them. And this was supposed to be a callback is the incorrect term, but a callback to earlier in the book when that happened to Moses. So the wise men go out to attempt to find Jesus to get him, to save him. And they show up a couple years later, and when, like, Jesus is a toddler, according to the biblical myths. And all of this has kind of turned into the nativity scene that we see today. Jesus is born in the little manger covered in hay. Aaron, you are a medical expert when compared to me. How good is it? Like, should we be having babies in mangers?
I would advise against it, just from an infection control standpoint.
Yeah, it always bugged me real bad when I was like, they put Jesus in the hay, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. That's got a lot of donkey spit in it. Like, I don't know if that's the best idea, but that's neither here nor there.
Also, just like newborns should have a lot of skin-to-skin contact with their mothers, so it's probably best if Mary just held on to the little guy.
What, you wouldn't just like drop baby Jesus in a bunch of hay?
No, I don't think that's a good practice.
And Mary's gotta keep those multiple robes on.
Yeah, it definitely has to be extremely clothed, and not just like tremendously bleeding.
There's also some, like, I love historians sometimes, because you've got people that are like, well, if you look at the shepherds, that's really how we're going to work backwards to figure out this date. So normally the sheep that are common in this area would graze during these time periods, and in these time periods they wouldn't. So if we're looking at like a December time frame, it's kind of on the edge there, because when we get to February, that's when we really start breeding, and they're going to be too busy to come check out some guy. I love historians so much.
I want the shepherd timeline of Jesus' birth.
But there's also this mystical component that has been removed with it, with the solstice, because a lot of early Christians were pitching this idea, like, God and the sun, like there being connection there, and that is something that existed for a very long time. So the idea of God, being born the day with the least amount of sunlight, and then from there, growing stronger, has some like poetic justice to it. And that has kind of been erased through the ideas of making this a much cleaner story that fits into an easier narrative that we can sell in nativity scenes. Because it's kind of hard to sell Jesus, the sun god.
I don't know. I think if we get a solarium going, an orrery is the word, but like if we get one with like Jesus floating around, and then we have something that's based on like the stars, and we can get like little wise men and angels and sheep, I think we could get a really cool model of the solar system based on that.
Which planet sheep?
The moon.
Famously a planet. Nice.
That's what I'm always saying.
When Pluto got removed, you're like, finally, put the moon in there.
We promoted the moon. I'll take that trade any day.
One in, one out.
Point out that like my baseline that I used that helped me branch off to other stuff was the Wikipedia about Christmas. Some people knock it. I like Wikipedia. And it has an amazing line here that I just want to read because it's very important. In the 17th century, Isaac Newton, who, coincidentally, was born on December 25th, argued that the date of Christmas may have been selected to correspond with the solstice. Yeah, man.
Crushed it,
yep.
Isaac.
Yeah, fucking got it in one.
I get it, Isaac. We're all out here trying to defend really unfortunate birthdays.
Oh.
You've definitely got the harder of the two, bud.
I do.
Yeah, Isaac's just like, I only get presents once a year, and you're like, that sucks, dude.
Hard cut to me and Michael eating chicken nuggets in a McDonald's while our parents go, yay! But yeah, that is just like a general overview of some of the myths that I found around Christmas, and I really got into that like solstice angle, and I find there's the metal aspect of Christianity that we've lost, like Jesus the sun god, like that's like him with some guitar licks, man. That's awesome.
We'll come back around.
You think we'll get there? With where we're moving, I think we're going further away from that.
We'll work on it. We'll do some marketing stuff.
All right, because I mean, there is going to be a new Catholic church in America, which is fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when that happens, we'll start our push to make Jesus the sun god.
Yeah. Which denomination y'all think we could get? I think honestly,
You start a new one.
I
obviously.
think we could take Unitarians.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If I have learned anything from L. Ron Hubbard and Gwen Shamblin, the best way to make money is to start a religion, not hijack a religion. So,
I mean,
I'm starting
Gwen
one.
Shamblin definitely hijacked Christianity. I feel like we could follow in her footsteps a little bit.
Yeah, I think we could do it.
Okay. I'm nervous.
You're the one who opened this door.
I know, and boy howdy would I like to make money that in an easy fashion. But, man, I'll just be a Christian comedian. Aaron will write all of the just absolutely astounding Hallmark Christmas movies based off of the Christmas shoes.
Oh, God, I wish.
And Michael will start a religion.
You're welcome.
Oh, boys, that's my Christmas myths.
Yeah, no, this was a fun one.
This was a weird one, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I don't know. Do we rate this? How do we rate this?
We technically have to.
We have to rate each one of the stories.
Oh no, that's so many.
3 ratings.
Crap.
Michael is incorrect. We always give 1 rating, no matter what happens. What rating do I want to give this one? I'm going to give it 1. Maybe the Japanese followers of Christianity in the movie Silence were actually correct, and Jesus is a son.
I'm gonna give this the 13th station in the cross. Jesus is taken down from the cross because I learned a lot. I don't know what that has to do with being taken down from the cross, but
Did Jesus learn a lot then? Did he learn his lesson finally?
he went on a field trip to hell, so in that way he did learn a lot.
And he also went to the Americas,
At the same time.
according to our good friends.
He was very busy. Well, I have no choice but to give this 4 out of 5 pairs of shoes for terminally ill women. Because you know what? It's pretty good, guys. I gotta say, I'm pretty proud of us.
Yeah. Like, it didn't re-spark my love of Christmas. Only an excellent mother dying in a poor family can do that.
Yeah, next time you're shopping for gifts, a small, dirty, filthy child with holes in his clothes is gonna walk up to you with a pair of $1,000 shoes and beg you.
And meanwhile, the cashier just, like, chewing bubble gum, and it pops right then. And just like, what do you want?
Oh, incredible. Well, when we are not patronizing filthy urchins, where can we be found on the internet?
Unfortunately, that's the only thing I do. But you can find me at Green History on Twitter.
I'm at Michael's Diamonds on Twitter.
I'm at AaronSXL on Twitter, where I talk about health policy and tabletop RPGs. I actually released a tabletop RPG by the name of Time Skip recently. It lets you move your campaign into the future and do cool things like have a family or do a training montage. So if you're that kind of person that is interested in that, please check Time Skip out. I also do another podcast at Mortified Pod. Me and Layla, if you are in the Christmas spirit, just watched Princess Switch 3 on Netflix, which fucking rules, actually. If you thought 3 Vanessa Ann Hudgenses wasn't enough, well, guess what? Now they're doing a heist, and it fucking rules. So
I love that.
God.
please check into that. And we don't have a theme song, so that's the end of the plugs. I think next week we're doing the Charlie Brown Christmas. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
All
excited.
right. And then after that, we'll take some time off, and we'll see you all in the new year. But if you are going to be shedding tears over the fact that you won't see us for 2 weeks in December, just remember that it is okay to cry, because even Jesus wept. We'll see you all next time.